title. She asked if I found other women pretty, then ended us when I said the truth. I never thought a single sentence could end a 4-year relationship, but here we are. It started on a quiet Sunday afternoon. We were lying on the couch, half watching some reality show where a group of models were competing in ridiculous challenges. My girlfriend, Nax, turned to me with that playful but slightly dangerous tone and asked, "Be honest, do you think any of them are pretty?" I laughed. I thought it was one of those harmless questions, the kind you answer carefully but truthfully. I said, "Yeah, I mean, sure, they're pretty, but you're the one I'm with." The smile dropped from her face like someone had flipped a switch. She didn't say anything for a few seconds, just stared at me like she didn't know who I was anymore. Then she said, "So you look at other women?" I froze. "What? No. I acknowledged they're attractive. That's normal?" Her eyes went cold. "Normal?" she repeated. "Normal to compare me to other women?" That was the start of the unraveling. Over the next few days, every conversation turned into an interrogation. She started going through my Instagram likes, scrolling back years to find any photo of a woman I'd interacted with. She'd text me screenshots with captions like, "So she's pretty too, huh?" It was insane. I tried to explain. Acknowledging beauty isn't the same as wanting someone. She didn't buy it. Her logic was simple. If you can see beauty in someone else, you don't love me enough. I told her that wasn't love. That was ownership. Things got worse. One night, I came home and found her sitting in the dark, my phone in her hands. She'd guessed my passcode. She'd read everything. My messages, my group chats, even emails. Nothing romantic, nothing inappropriate. Just normal conversations. She looked up at me with tears in her eyes and whispered, "I can't believe you betrayed me like this." That broke something inside me, not because I was guilty, but because I realized she'd already decided I was. A few days later, she said she needed space. I gave it to her. 2 days after that, I got a text, "You made me feel replaceable. We're done." No phone call, no explanation, just gone. A week passed before I heard from her again. She showed up at my apartment to talk, but it wasn't a conversation. It was a post-mortem. She accused me of normalizing lust and said she couldn't be with someone who thought about other women. I tried to tell her that noticing people exist isn't infidelity. That love isn't blindness. That pretending no one else is attractive doesn't make your relationship stronger. It makes it delusional. She didn't care. She said I'd ruined her ability to feel special. Then she left for good. That was 3 months ago. Now, I've had time to think, and honestly am torn. On one hand, I feel like I did nothing wrong. I was honest, gentle, and loyal. I never cheated, never flirted, never crossed a line. I just answered a question truthfully. But on the other hand, part of me wonders if I should have lied. Would she still be here if I'd just said, "No, you're the only beautiful one"? I don't know. Maybe she wanted reassurance, not honesty. Maybe I was too logical, too blunt. Or maybe she just wanted someone who could live in her version of reality, where love meant shutting out every truth that felt uncomfortable. Last week, I ran into our mutual friend at a coffee shop. She told me my ex is dating someone new, and apparently she's already told him, "I love how you only have eyes for me." I laughed, but it wasn't funny. It was tragic, because I know that phrase is just the opening line of another story that will end exactly like ours did. So here I am, wondering, am I the asshole for being honest? For acknowledging that other people are attractive but still choosing the person I loved? Or was I right to tell the truth even if it cost me everything? Maybe honesty doesn't ruin relationships. Maybe it just exposes the ones that were built on lies. Part 2. When honesty turns into a ghost. It's been 6 months since that breakup. 6 months of silence that sometimes feels like peace and sometimes like punishment. I thought I was done with her. I thought I'd moved on. But life has a cruel way of reminding you that closure doesn't come with time. It comes with truth. It started with a message. A no number. "Hey, can we talk?" I knew it was her before I even opened it. For a second, I considered ignoring it. I had every reason to. After all, she'd left me over a hypothetical. I'd been faithful, loyal, honest, and Shed punished me for it. But curiosity won, so I replied, "What's there to talk about?" She took 3 minutes to respond. "You were right, that was it." 2 words. I just stared at my phone, feeling equal parts satisfaction and dread. Because when someone who once called you a monster suddenly says you were right, it doesn't mean peace. It means a storm's coming. 2 days later, she showed up outside my apartment. She looked different. Not bad, just hollow, like something had been drained out of her. The confidence, the self-assurance, the constant need to control, all gone. We went for a walk. She talked first. Turns out the new boyfriend Shed left me for wasn't exactly faithful. In fact, Shed found messages between him and 3 other women, some flirty, some explicit. When she confronted him, he didn't deny it. He just shrugged and said, "You're not the only beautiful one. You knew that." The same lie, twisted. The same truth, delivered without love. And in that moment, she realized how different honesty feels depending on the hands it comes from. She started crying right there in the park. Told me she finally understood what ID meant, that acknowledging someone else's beauty doesn't erase the love you feel. That real trust is built on seeing the world as it is, not as you want it to be. For a moment, I almost felt sorry for her. But then she said something that made my stomach twist. "I should have never left you. I think we can still fix this." That was when I realized she didn't come for forgiveness. She came because she wanted control again. I told her ID moved on, that I wasn't angry, just done. She didn't take it well. The next few weeks were unsettling. She'd send late-night messages like, "Do you ever think about me? I miss us. You can't just forget me." Then one day, she showed up at my workplace. No warning, no text, just standing by the front desk, smiling like nothing had ever happened. My coworkers gave me confused looks as she walked up and said, "Hey babe, let's grab lunch." I pulled her aside and whispered, "You can't just show up here." Her eyes darkened. "You said you weren't angry, so why are you acting like you are?" That's when it hit me. She didn't understand boundaries. To her, love and possession were the same thing. A few nights later, she posted an old photo of us on her story. Caption, "He'll come back. He always does." I didn't reply, didn't even view it. But the thing is, she wasn't completely wrong. Because even though I didn't want to go back, I couldn't stop thinking about her. The good moments, the laughter, the nights where she fell asleep on my chest, whispering how safe she felt. It haunted me. Not because I still loved her, but because I missed the idea of who I thought she was. Then came the call. It was to 14 a.m. I almost didn't answer, but something in me said I should. Her voice was shaking. She said she'd been drinking, that she'd gone to her ex-boyfriend's apartment, the one who cheated, and things got ugly. She didn't go into detail, just said she felt broken. And then she said, "I wish I'd never asked you that stupid question." There it was. The origin of everything. That single spark that burned down everything we built. I wanted to comfort her, to tell her she'd be okay. But I also knew she needed to feel what she'd done, because some lessons can't be taught gently. So I said the hardest words I've ever said. "You'll get through this, but not with me." She cried, begged, apologized over and over, but I didn't go back. 3 months later, I found out she'd moved to another city, got a new job, started therapy, even posted something online about learning to let go of toxic control. And that's when I felt something I hadn't felt since the breakup, relief. Not because she was gone, but because maybe, just maybe, she'd finally learned. It's been a year now. Sometimes I still think about that day on the couch, the question that started it all. Do you think any of them are pretty? If I could go back, I wouldn't change my answer. Because truth shouldn't cost you love. And if it does, that love wasn't real. She taught me that honesty doesn't always make people love you, but it always sets you free. And freedom, I've learned, is worth every broken heart. Part 3. The ghost who said she'd changed. It's been 3 years since I last saw her. 3 years since the night she called me drunk crying, saying she wished she'd never asked that stupid question. Life moved on. Or at least, that's what I told myself. I'd built something stable. A new city, new job, even started seeing someone new, Emily. She was calm, patient, and had this quiet understanding that made me feel like I could breathe again. No jealousy, no games, no control. For the first time in a long time, I felt safe. But peace is fragile. And sometimes the past doesn't knock before it walks back into your life. It started with an email. Subject line. Just wanted to say hi. No name, no signature. Just a few lines. Hey, I don't know if you'll read this, but I hope you're well. I'm in town again for work. I've been through a lot of therapy and I think about what happened between us sometimes. I'm sorry for how I treated you. Truly. At first, I didn't even realize it was her. The tone was different, softer, less demanding. But then I saw the last line. I finally understand what honesty really costs, and my stomach dropped. I didn't respond. I told myself it was better that way, that reopening that door would only let the ghosts out. But a week later, she showed up anyway. It was a Saturday morning. I was walking out of a coffee shop when I heard someone say my name. Not loudly, not dramatically, just softly. I turned around and there she was. She looked older. Not in a bad way, just more real. Her hair was darker, shorter. Her eyes lined with the kind of exhaustion that therapy alone can't erase. Hey, she said, you look good. For a second, I didn't know what to say. I just stood there, caught between memory and reality. She smiled nervously. Can we talk? Just for a few minutes? Against my better judgment, I agreed. We sat at a bench by the river, the same one where we used to sit on summer nights, planning futures that never happened. She told me about her life, how she'd moved away, gone to therapy, learned about her trust issues and attachment patterns. She said she'd realized how much of her fear came from her parents' divorce, from a father who cheated and a mother who pretended everything was fine. And I believed her. She seemed genuine. Fragile, even. Then she looked at me with this bittersweet smile and said, you were the only person who ever told me the truth. I hated you for it, but now I see you were right. Her voice cracked. You didn't destroy us. I did. There was a pause, heavy, full of everything we never said. And then she asked, do you ever think about me? That question hit harder than I wanted it to, because the truth was, I did. Not every day, but sometimes. When I saw a movie we'd watched together. When I heard a song she used to hum. When I caught myself hesitating before telling someone the truth. Remembering how honesty once cost me everything. But I didn't tell her that. I just said, sometimes. She nodded, eyes glistening. Then she said something I didn't expect. I still love you. I know it's wrong, and I know you've probably moved on, but I had to tell you. The air around us shifted, like the world was holding its breath. I told her I was seeing someone. She smiled, but her eyes filled with tears. I'm happy for you, she said. Really. I just needed you to know that I'm not that person anymore. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But over the next few weeks, strange things started happening. Emily mentioned she got a few weird calls at work. Someone asking questions about me. My social media accounts had sudden, random follows from new profiles with no posts, but familiar timing. One night, I got a text from an unknown number. She doesn't love you like I did. I blocked it immediately. Still, something deep inside me knew it was her. The way she phrased things, that mix of affection and possession. It was unmistakable. A month later, I ran into one of our old mutual friends. She told me something that made my blood run cold. Apparently, my ex had told people we'd reconnected and were taking things slow. She had been talking about me in therapy. Not as her past, but as her unfinished chapter. That night, I confronted her. She didn't deny it. Instead, she said, I just wanted to feel close to you again. You don't understand what it's like to lose someone who saw everything in you. Her voice was trembling. Not with fear, but obsession. I told her she needed to stop. That I wasn't her savior and I couldn't be her closure. She looked at me, tears streaming down her face, and whispered, you can't just walk away again. And that's when I realized she hadn't healed. She had just learned how to hide it better. A week later, she was gone. Deleted social media, moved out of town again, vanished without a trace. No calls, no emails, nothing. It's been another year since then. Sometimes I still think about that morning by the river. Her voice breaking, the apology in her eyes, the ghost of what could have been. But mostly, I think about the lesson she taught me. Some people don't love you. They worship the version of you that makes their pain feel less lonely. And once they lose that version, they'll do anything to resurrect it, even if it means haunting you forever. So no, I don't hate her. I don't even resent her anymore. But when people ask if I believe people can change, I say this. Yes, but not if they're still clinging to the ashes of who they burned you to become. Part 4. The woman who came back wearing a new name. 5 years had passed since that last message from her. By now, my life was unrecognizable. I had a wife, Emily, and a 2-year-old daughter who had her mother's eyes, and my restless curiosity. Our days were quiet, full of small moments that felt sacred in their simplicity. Early breakfasts, park walks, and nights where the sound of my daughter's laughter filled every corner of the house. I'd buried the past, or so I thought, because sometimes the past doesn't stay dead. Sometimes it comes back wearing a new name. It started on an ordinary Tuesday. We were short-staffed at work, and HR had hired a new project consultant for our division. I didn't pay much attention. I was buried in deadlines. That morning, I got an email from HR. Please welcome our new temporary analyst, Lena Marks. The name meant nothing, but when I met her, something about her smile, polite, careful, just a little too knowing, made my stomach twist. She introduced herself with confidence, shaking my hand firmly. Her hair was darker now, her voice a touch deeper, her tone more professional. But then I noticed the eyes. Same storm gray irises, same faint scar above the right brow, the one she got the night we moved apartments and a box fell off the shelf. I froze, she noticed, and for a second, just one flicker, her lips curved into that same half-smirk I'd seen years ago. Then she said, "Nice to finally meet you again." I didn't confront her right away. I didn't even know how. What could I say? Hey, are you the ex who once tried to emotionally break me and then disappeared for years? No. I had too much to lose now. My marriage, my job, my peace. So I played along. I treated her like any other colleague, cold but polite. She, on the other hand, acted like nothing between us had ever happened. During meetings, she'd smile like she knew something no one else did. When she passed me in the hall, she'd whisper small things, still honest as ever. Or you used to like your coffee black. Every time, my pulse spiked. She was testing boundaries, seeing how far she could push before I broke. One evening, I stayed late at the office. I was the only one left, or so I thought. I heard footsteps behind me. Then her voice, "You really thought you could erase me, didn't you?" I turned, trying to stay calm. "Lena," I said sharply, "we need to talk outside work." She tilted her head. "Outside work? Like old times?" I clenched my fists. "Why are you here?" She took a slow step closer. "Because you never finished the story. You just closed the book and pretended it didn't exist." There was no anger in her tone. Only obsession, calm and dangerous. I told her to leave me alone, that I had a family, that what we had was over. But she smiled like she was listening to a child trying to lie. "I'm not here to ruin your life," she whispered. "I just want to see if you still tell the truth." Over the next few weeks, she became more invasive. She'd accidentally end up in meetings I was in. She brought me coffee one morning. Black, no sugar, just how I used to drink it. One day, she mentioned Emily's name. "Your wife's lovely," she said casually. "I saw her at the daycare when I dropped something off." I froze. "How do you even know where that is?" She smiled. "You told me once, years ago. Some details stay with you." That night, I barely slept. I started checking locks twice, keeping my phone face down, making sure Emily didn't see the fear in my eyes. I thought about telling her, but how could I explain something like this without sounding paranoid? Then came the breaking point. One morning, Emily handed me my phone. "Hey, you got a message from someone named Lena," she said, smiling innocently. I snatched it before she could read it. The message said, "She doesn't really know you, does she?" That was it. Just that one sentence. But it felt like a knife. I deleted it instantly, told Emily it was work spam. But the lie burned in my throat. That night, I drove to Lena's apartment. I knew the address, our records, emergency contacts. She opened the door before I even knocked. "I knew you'd come," she said. Her apartment was neat, minimalist. A single candle flickered on the table next to a stack of old photographs, us, from years ago. I felt my blood run cold. "How do you still have those?" "I kept them," she said softly, "because even when I hated you, I couldn't let go of who I was with you." I told her this was insane, that she needed to stop before she destroyed everything. Again. She walked closer, her expression unreadable. "I'm not trying to destroy anything," she whispered. "I'm trying to remind you who you are. You've changed. You're quieter now. Careful. You used to be alive." That's when I realized the truth. She didn't miss me. She missed the version of herself that existed when I loved her. And she'd do anything. Anything. to bring that version back. I left. I blocked her number, reported her to her for harassment, and demanded she be reassigned. She was fired 2 days later. For a while, things were calm again. Emily never found out what really happened. We moved houses, changed numbers, rebuilt that fragile piece. But sometimes when I drive home at night, I swear I still see her car parked 2 blocks away. Same model, same color, and sometimes, when my phone buzzes from an unknown number and there's nothing but silence on the other end, I wonder if it's her. Still waiting, still watching, because some ghosts don't want revenge. They just don't want to be forgotten. Part 5. The woman who refused to stay dead. It's been nearly 8 years since she disappeared for good, or so I thought. Life had finally become quiet again. My daughter was starting school, Emily was thriving at work, and I had learned to love ordinary days. Mornings filled with laughter, weekends at the park, silence that didn't feel heavy. The past had become a story I told myself not to repeat, until one evening it stopped being a story. It was late. Nearly midnight. Emily and our daughter were asleep. I was in my office working on a presentation when my phone buzzed. Unknown number. At first, I thought it was spam, but something, an old instinct I'd buried years ago, made me open it anyway. Do you still tell the truth? My hands went cold. I stared at the screen for a long time, half expecting it to disappear. Some cruel glitch, a memory bleeding into reality. But then came another message. You thought you buried me, but I'm still here. I tried to rationalize it. Someone was playing a prank. Maybe she'd made new accounts. Maybe this was someone pretending. Then I saw the picture. It was our old apartment building. The one we'd shared before everything fell apart. Taken that day. The timestamp confirmed it. She was back. The next morning, I drove there. The building had changed. New paint, new tenants, but the air still smelled faintly of rain and regret. I asked around. No one had seen her. No one recognized her name. But as I was leaving, I noticed something taped to the door of the old unit we'd once called home. A small envelope, no name, no address. Just one word, written in her handwriting. Truth. Inside was a photo. Me, Emily, and our daughter taken from across the street. The back said, "Beautiful family. You deserve it. That's why I'm letting you keep it." I didn't tell Emily. How could I? How do you explain that the ghost of your past just mailed you proof she's alive and watching, but also blessing your happiness? But she wasn't finished. Over the next few weeks, I started finding little reminders. A note under my windshield. You were right about honesty. A single black coffee delivered to my office with no receipt. A voicemail with just a breath, not words, just presence. I changed numbers again, reported it. Nothing helped. And then, just as suddenly as she'd appeared, she vanished again. Months passed. The world moved on. Until one morning, I saw the headline, "Local woman found dead in motel. ID suggests possible name change." The photo attached was blurry, but I knew the face. It was her. The report said she'd been using an alias, Lena Marks, the same one she'd used when she infiltrated my workplace years ago. The cause of death was ruled self-inflicted. Beside her body, they found a notebook. The first page said, "I told the truth once. It broke me, so now I'll tell his story instead." The rest of the pages were filled with letters, to me. They detailed everything. Her therapy, her loneliness, her obsession with the idea that love could be fixed if you just rewrote it enough times. The final page read, "You were my mirror. When you walked away, I couldn't see myself anymore. I didn't cry, not right away. I didn't even know if I was sad. What I felt was something heavier. Relief wrapped in grief." I told Emily a version of the truth, that someone from my past had passed away, and I needed time to process it. That night, after everyone had gone to bed, I went outside and sat under the old oak tree in our yard. I opened the last envelope the police had given me, one that had been found in her motel room. Inside was a single Polaroid. It was from years ago. The two of us on the couch, laughing before everything had gone wrong. On the back, in her handwriting, were the words, "Maybe if I had loved you less, I could have kept you." The next morning, I burned the photo, not out of anger, but because it felt like the only way to release her. The flames curled around her face first, then mine, until all that was left was ash and the faint scent of smoke that lingered like her memory. quiet, stubborn, and tragic. Now, years later, sometimes I still think about her. When I tell my daughter that honesty is important. When Emily asks me why I pause before answering difficult questions. When I look in the mirror and see a man who once lost everything for telling the truth and would still do it again. Because maybe that's what love really is. Not perfection, not possession, just the courage to be real, even when reality destroys you. And as for her, I think she finally found peace in the only way she knew how, by making sure the story ended on her terms. Because in the end, she wasn't my villain. She was just someone who never learned that love can't exist where truth isn't allowed to breathe. Part 6. The last letter she never sent. It's been almost 3 years since she died. 3 years since the motel room, the ashes, the quiet end that was supposed to close the book. I thought I had buried her with the past, along with every word, every ghost, every piece of guilt that used to crawl through my dreams. But ghosts have a way of rewriting the rules. It began on an ordinary morning in March. The kind of morning that doesn't feel like a story, until it suddenly becomes one. Emily was out with our daughter running errands. I was home alone, sipping cold coffee, scrolling through emails when I noticed one marked as legal correspondence estate of Lena Marks. At first, I thought it was spam. Then I saw the sender's address, Anderson and Cole Law Firm. It was real. The message was short, Mr. James H., our client, Ms. Lena Marks, also known as Redacted, requested this correspondence be sent to you exactly 3 years following the confirmation of her death. Please find attached a digital document titled for the record. Sincerely, Andrea Cole-esque. My chest tightened. 3 years after her death. That meant she had planned this, scheduled it, timed it. It wasn't just a goodbye. It was her final move. I hovered over the attachment for a long time. My hand trembled before I clicked it. It opened into a letter. Scan handwriting, her handwriting. But neater this time, calmer, as if she had rehearsed every word. James, if you're reading this, then time has done what I couldn't. It's put distance between us. I know you burned the photo. I know you let me go. That's good. You needed to. But I also know you, and I know your mind doesn't rest when there are questions left unanswered. So this is my truth. The last one I have to give. You were right that I lied to you about more than you'll ever know. You thought I came back to destroy you. I didn't. I came back because I found something I couldn't live without. Not you, but what you represented. You were the only person who ever saw me instead of the mask I wore. And I hated you for that. After you left, I tried to move on. I even thought I did. I changed my name, my hair, my life. But the truth followed me like a shadow that wouldn't die. I didn't mean to hurt Emily. I didn't mean to haunt you. I just needed you to remember that once I existed, that I wasn't just the villain of your story. I paused there, breathing shallow, heart uneven. But the letter wasn't finished. She had written another page. I know about your daughter. Don't worry. I never came near her. But you should know something. Before I died, I left something in safe deposit box 117 at Mason Bank. It's not for you. It's for her. Someday, when she's old enough to ask about who her father really was. When she wants to know what kind of man you became after me, she'll get the key. I've left her the truth, my version and yours. You said once that love can't survive without honesty. I'm giving her that honesty, even if it burns you. The letter ended with her signature, L. No closure, no explanation, just that. I sat there for a long time, the screen glowing like a ghost in the dim light. I didn't tell Emily, not right away. How could I? How do you tell your wife that the woman who nearly destroyed your life left behind one last breadcrumb trail aimed straight at your daughter's future? I told myself it was probably empty, a bluff, one final manipulation from a woman who couldn't stop controlling the narrative even after death. But I couldn't stop thinking about it. A week later, I went to Mason Bank. The clerk looked confused when I handed over my ID and the letter. She checked records, then nodded. Yes, MRH. We do have a box registered under that name. You're listed as a secondary contact in case of death. My stomach dropped. She led me to a quiet back room. Sterile, cold, humming with fluorescent light. The key turned with a click that echoed like a heartbeat. Inside was a small envelope, yellowed around the edges. No jewelry, no money, just paper. The front said, "For the girl who will one day ask who her father used to be." I didn't open it. Not then. I sealed it in another box, locked it away at home. Maybe one day, when my daughter's old enough to understand what kind of chaos love can cause, I'll let her decide whether to read it. For now, I tell her stories about choices, about forgiveness, about ghosts that teach you lessons you didn't ask to learn. And sometimes, when she laughs, that free and broken kind of laughter, I hear a faint echo in it, something familiar and haunting, something that sounds a little like her. Because maybe that's the cruelest part of betrayal. It doesn't end when the person leaves. It ends when you stop being afraid that they'll come back. And for the first time in years, I'm not sure I ever will. Part 7. The daughter's version. It started the summer I turned 18. Mom and Dad had been careful all my life. Careful about what I knew, what I saw, what I asked. They told me only what they thought I could handle. A version of my father that was strong, steady, and infallibly moral. A version of my mother that was calm, loving, and endlessly patient. But secrets have a way of bubbling up, even through walls built with love. I found the envelope the day after my last final exam. It wasn't hidden in a closet or buried under old papers, no. It was sitting in a small safe at home. One of those combination locks Dad kept in his office. I had no idea it existed until I accidentally nudged it with my backpack. Inside was the envelope Lena, or whatever her real name had been, had left. It was yellowed, fragile, with a note on top. For the girl who will one day ask who her father used to be. I didn't know if I should open it. My instincts screamed, "Stay away." My curiosity screamed louder. "You have to know." I sat on my bed, heart hammering, and unfolded the papers inside. The first page was a letter. The handwriting was sharp, practiced, and unmistakably familiar. Dad had once described her as meticulous. "You will read this someday. I can't be there when you do, and perhaps that is for the best. I only ask that you understand love, honesty, and obsession are more complicated than they seem. Your father is a man who always told the truth, even when it hurt. I was a woman who couldn't handle it." I paused. The words were strange, almost haunting, but they had a tone of remorse. "I know your father loved me once, and I hated him for it. I hated him for seeing me, for knowing me, for showing me that honesty can be stronger than lies. I followed him. I haunted him. I tried to change him. And when I failed, I left, not out of revenge, not out of anger, but because I couldn't survive in a world where truth existed without me controlling it." I sat there reading and rereading. The sentences painted a picture of a woman I had only heard about in whispers and fragments. The ex-girlfriend who almost destroyed their family. The ghost who returned from nowhere. The woman Dad had told me about as a warning. But she wasn't the villain I'd imagined. Not completely. The letter went on. "You are the only person who can see this clearly. Your father is good, steadfast, moral, loving, but he was tested in ways he never could have predicted. I am a ghost in his story, yes, but I also shaped him in ways that will define the man you know. I leave this for you so that when you ask him about the past, you will not only hear truth, you will understand it." There were photographs folded inside, old ones. Dad and Lena laughing, sleeping on the couch. Moments of normalcy before obsession crept in. I stared at them, fascinated. Remember, the last note said, "Truth does not always bring peace, but it is always necessary. You will know when to open the safe, and you will know what to do with what you find." I didn't tell Dad. I couldn't, not yet, because suddenly the world I had lived in, the perfect, neat version of my parents' life, had cracks running through it, and in those cracks I could see Lena's presence. I could feel the history that had shaped my father long before I existed. It was almost comforting. In a strange way, it explained everything. Dad's quiet vigilance, Mom's calm patience, the small rules about honesty and boundaries I had grown up with. I spent the rest of the summer thinking, rereading her words, folding and unfolding them, staring at the photographs over and over. By the time school started again, I had a plan. I would confront Dad, not to accuse him, not to judge him, not even to judge Lena. I would confront him to understand. Because the envelope, this ghost from a life before me, had made one thing clear. Some truths are not meant to hurt, some truths are meant to teach, and some truths can only be discovered when you're ready to see the past not as a story of betrayal, but as the foundation of who you are. The day I told Dad I found it, he didn't look angry. He didn't look guilty. He looked relieved. We sat together for hours. He told me the whole story. Everything Lena had done, everything she had said, every moment of obsession and love and horror. And I listened. I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I just understood. Because in the end, it wasn't about Lena. It wasn't about my father. It was about the truth that they had lived with and that I would not carry forward. Years later, I still keep the envelope. I haven't opened the safe yet. Maybe I will someday. But what matters isn't the contents. What matters is that the story exists, and that knowing it, the messy, painful, beautiful story, has made me who I am. I am not perfect. I am not untouchable. But I am honest. And that, I realize, is the one thing Lena could never take from us.